LA 还在烧火已经过了1个礼拜 and the majority of the fires are at less than 13% containment. And in addition to the massive amount of global attention that the fires are getting, there is also a lot of terrible things that are being uncovered regarding the local government's epic fails. And these revelations show very clearly the irreversible consequences that can occur from ESG and DEI-based policy decisions.
Complete and total disaster.
So you can 准备爆米花 if you want, but you're more than likely gonna need a couple of bottles of whiskey, vodka, or even some bourbon. And hold on tight to your phone, because once you see and hear what is about to be revealed in this episode, you just might throw it at the wall. 天哪，让我们继续看下去吧。
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get self-service.
Ladies and gentlemen, 渣男101. Lie to a woman's face about who you're talking to on the phone. 这个北兰 claims he's on the phone with the president, but when pressed further, 我没有讯号啊，不好意思。This one clip completely sums up Gavin Newsom's entire political career.
I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full of the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta and somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is
I want to punch you in the face so bad right now.
Once again, caught in another lie on the spot. And even the left-wing NBC network so call his bullshit and calls him out. Because here's the thing, the Santa Ynez Reservoir, the one most crucial to supplying water to the entire Palisades, has been out of service since 去年2月. And you mean to tell me the governor doesn't know he needs to investigate?
This is going to be the biggest investment in water storage in decades, the biggest investment in ensuring clean, sustainable groundwater, the biggest investment in our rivers, our streams, our watersheds. With this bond, I think we harness innovative technology, we anticipate the challenges that future droughts may pose, and we create jobs. So, thank you.
So back in 2014, when Newsom was lieutenant governor of the state of California, $2.7 billion was approved to build reservoirs and other water storage facilities for the state. And 11 long years later, 8 of which have been under Gavin Newsom's watch as governor, guess how many have been built so far?
Fire hydrants are broken, the reservoirs ran dry. Well, guess what? In 2014, Californians voted on Proposition 1 to put billions towards building new reservoirs. Not one is complete 10 years later.
Well, at least they started, right? But up until now, not a single one has been completed. Maybe it's because the majority of the policies that have been pushed by Gavin Newsom have all been motivated by ESG.
the largest dam removal project in U.S. history and one of the most significant, if not the most significant, water restoration project, bringing back salmon and steelhead into this basin. And I couldn't be more proud as a Californian, and I couldn't be more proud as a father.
Fuck you, fish! Fuck you!
Fun fact, Giotto is gotten as fuck, especially Southern California. And over the course of 11 years, when it came to Proposition 1, Newsom has completely failed to implement a single initiative. And to add further insult to injury, this fool's actually bragging about destroying dams.
Is there a water shortage in California, and what's causing it? At any given moment in time, there is usually a water shortage. But of the amount of water that goes into California, there is a massive excess of water. That's because when the snow melts or when it rains off the Sierra Nevadas, the snow melts and the water comes down, or when it rains, most of it just washes into the ocean. This is why Donald Trump argues, oh, California is diverting all their water into the ocean. Well, not quite, Donald. The water naturally flows into the ocean because if you look at a topography map, we have a lot of mountains and it just makes sense. Water goes downhill and into the ocean. That's just the natural flow of it. So it's not California on purpose dumping it into the ocean. It just naturally all goes into the ocean. It follows the San Joaquin River, the Sacramento River. They come together in a delta and they just flush out into the ocean. That's just geography. Okay, but what is California not doing? Well, they're not building dams or reservoirs that could actually divert this water down to SoCal, keep the Colorado River filled up, build more reservoirs so that we have enough water pressure for our fire hydrants. California, specifically Gavin Newsom, have actually bragged about closing down dams and bragged about how, yay, now we have more of a salmon population. And so really what they've done is they've bowed to environmentalists who say, well, the steelhead trout population or the Delta smelt or the salmon populations have declined because of damming or rivers. And the byproduct of this, because every action has a reaction, the byproduct of this, the externality is houses burn down in SoCal because we don't have enough water in fire hydrants.
So this guy actually ran as a Democrat against Gavin Newsom during the recall vote of 2021. And what he laid out is a very clear diagram of fucked up causes to devastating effect. But seeing as how I don't live in California, I like to know, for those of you guys who are living there right now, is what he's saying legit? Let me know down below.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There are hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well.
Okay, now to be fair to Newsom, there is quite a bit of misinformation going around, but something tells me when he says they gotta do something about the misinformation, that's code for we gotta cover my ass, which is something he's getting even worse and worse at doing lately.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days.
Are you high or just incredibly stupid?
So this fool stood in a devastated neighborhood right in front of a burned down home, shrugging his shoulders and chilling and laughing and smiling like he's some sort of carefree, worry-free hero. And let's just say this didn't rub a lot of California residents the right way.
Not a moral fiber in his body. He's a snake.
Probably took about 5 Adderalls 10 minutes before his interview and is trying not to let it show. And also comes across as a PDF file. I'm interpreting his rocking side to side, as you can take or leave what I'm saying. He looks unsure and uncomfortable. He smiles widely to make himself appear more genuine, but he comes off as awkward and unsettling. Looking down and to the right signifies he's more focused on what he's feeling rather than recalling facts. I'm not sure, but he's either lying completely or telling partial truths.
That nigga is guilty!
Gavin Newsom, the guy caught lying on camera multiple times, who seems more concerned about protecting illegal immigrants and tiny little fish than building reservoirs to adequately prepare its citizens to fight wildfires. This is a guy who, since taking office, has seen the state of California go from losing hundreds of thousands of acres a year to wildfires to millions of acres a year. And you still have the balls to run for president in 2028?
Spend less on hair gel.
Well, between the wildfires and his lack of action and his really terrible side-on attitude, I believe he is officially politically cooked. And make no mistake, he is not the only one.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
This video. Now, we featured this in our previous episode, and as of right now, on X, it has already surpassed over 100 million views. Could you imagine if you reported to the police that you had just been robbed and he replies to you, well, you got yourself in the wrong place for carrying so much money in such a bad neighborhood. How exactly would that make you feel? And make no mistake, this type of chill, DEI bullshit attitude doesn't stop at the LAFD.
You call it powered by equity, and I know that it's been really important for the DWP to put an equity lens on everything.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the number one thing that attracted me to this role. Coming from the communities that I come, seeing what I've seen through my career in utilities and through the military, I've been in the Coast Guard 19 and a half years. It's important to me that everything we do, it's with an equity lens and social justice and making sure that we right the wrongs that we've done in the past from an infrastructure perspective and that we involve the community in that process. And this utility is serious about it, is authentic about it. And so I'm just super excited to be part of that movement.
Guess who this is? The head of the Los Angeles Water Department, the very department directly in charge of keeping them reservoirs full. And one of them happens to be the Santa Ynez Reservoir. You know, that really important one that's been completely empty for an entire year.
Fuck.
But clearly we can all see what happened. All of her focus is completely devoted to keeping the department diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city? It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say
justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
The question is about the Santa Ynez Reservoir being empty. There's been a lot of questions about that.
My stance on this is when a firefighter comes up to a hydrant, we expect there's going to be water. We don't control the water supply. Our firefighters are there to protect lives and property and to make sure that we're properly trained and equipped. If there's no water, I don't know how the water gets to the hydrants. Please defer that to DWP or whomever controls that part.
You're doing so well.
Then there's LAFD Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, who I do kind of feel bad for because she did warn the mayor about cutting their budget. But here is where Homegirl completely dropped the ball. See, okay, yeah, sure, the water department completely screwed up by failing to notify you guys that the reservoir was completely empty. 但是我有个问题齁，如果你是 LAFD Fire Chief， 你是不是要先打电话跟他们确认 at least once a month just to make sure they actually got the water? 是吗？对吧？ So in a nutshell, Homegirl completely failed at doing her job.
We're still going through it, and to any of you and all of you that have experienced a loss, the grief, the anger, the just utter shock, I've seen the devastation. It is unbelievable the amount of loss that people have experienced. But we have to get through this crisis, and I know that we will. We know we still have much more to go, and we know the winds are going to kick up again. But we got to stick together. We got to stand strong. And then we have to rebuild our city. We're the nation's second largest city, one of the greatest cities in the world. And we stay together, and we will rebuild an amazing city.
And then there's this goofy, googly, moogly motherfucker who during her mayoral campaign promised that she would never take a trip abroad while on duty as the mayor. And then right when them LA fires started, she hopped on a first-class trip to Ghana. And now here she is, hands in her pockets, smiling like an overdosed Ronald McDonald. And you can be for damn sure when she takes her hands out, she ain't pulling out no money, because I actually did some digging. And I found a video from just about a year ago where 3 very important people sat in front of city council and begged them not to cut the firefighters' budget.
Freddie Escobar, and I proudly serve as a Captain 2 with the LAFD, and I'm also the union president for the United Firefighters of Los Angeles City. I'm here today to express UFLAC's disappointment regarding Mayor's proposed budget, which calls for a $23 million cut in the LAFD. We understand the city has a budget deficit and a homeless crisis, but these problems were not created by your firefighters. The LAFD has fewer firefighters and medics today than we had 15 years ago, but our emergency calls for service has increased by more than 50% during that same time. 50% of the fires we respond to come from our homeless population. And the city reportedly spends $1.3 billion each year on homeless programs. But the LAFD is scheduled to receive a $23 million cut. This absolutely makes no sense. We don't have enough firefighters and medics. We don't have enough fire engines. We don't have enough trucks and ambulances in the field. And we don't have the equipment and staffing we need to respond to more than 500,000 emergency calls for service every year.
So why in the hell would Special K Karen Bass allocate $1.3 billion to give to the homeless and then cut $23 million from the firefighters department? That's $23 million that goes to saving and protecting lives. Literally 1/50th of the $1.3 billion. That's chump change, yo.
My name is Rich Ramirez. I'm a director for UFLAC Local 112, also a firefighter paramedic for 19 years on the job. The increase of homelessness has put a strain on our EMS calls, our fire activity, and our day-to-day operations. Our chief is asking for additional 18 ambulances to serve our community. I know the city's in a budget crisis and a deficit, but what we ask is not to cut public safety so we can respond to the civilians and keep our firefighters safe.
My name is Chung Ho. I'm Vice President, United Firefighters of Los Angeles City, Local 112. UFLAC strongly supports the fire chief's request to add back $5.8 million in the LAFD overtime variable staffing accounts. And until we can finally and properly staff our fire department, we need to utilize these V-staffed hours to provide coverage for these resources. We are going on more calls for service every single year, and we serve every single one of your communities, protecting life and property 24 hours a day. To have a proposed budget that is $23 million less from our current year budget doesn't make sense.
So from fire captain to union presidents, these folks begged these people not to cut their budget, as they were already barely holding on by a thread. And Mayor Special K Karen's response?
Fuck you guys. The federal government is cutting the city of LA a check for nearly $22 million to help house migrants. The city has made itself a sanctuary for migrants arriving in the country, but has had a tough time finding them homes.
And then, in the name of DEI and some other nonsensical bullshit, they allocated resources and taxpayer dollars to help illegal immigrants. Please, Baitor, make it make sense.
That don't make no sense.
Now, don't get it twisted. There ain't nothing wrong with trying to give different colored folks a chance to get a job. Well, if they're qualified anyway. And there certainly ain't nothing wrong with trying to protect the environment. But maybe, just maybe, you should put protecting folks' lives at the top of your priority list. You know, so that they don't DIE.
Remember, a firefighter's job is to fight fires.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Now, this wildfire incident, although unfortunate, has exposed a lot of absurd shit buried deep beneath the California LA city government. And I assume most of the residents, Republican and Democrat, are counting down the minutes before they can go vote for a recall of these two buffoons. But I could be wrong. Maybe they actually love these two. What do you think? Let me know down below. Remember to keep it civil, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace!